Madam President, I wish to thank the Democratic leader, the majority leader, for his kind words. But it's not only about his kind words about me. It's been his advocacy to make sure that as we look at the need for funding for the entire government, that there would be no government shutdown and no government on autopilot. Just a few minutes ago, the House of Representatives did their part. They passed the omnibus spending bill, passing it 219 to 206. It was well debated, and the vote speaks now for itself. It now comes to the Senate, and I'm here tonight to kick off that debate. For hours after hours after hours, and the last several days, I have heard what is wrong with this bill. I don't dispute my colleagues' analysis. I will debate it. But now we've got to start talking about what are the good aspects of this bill and why we did this bill in the first place. And tonight, I want to remind people what we are doing. First of all, we are funding the entire United States government's discretionary spending. We have $550 billion in here for national defense, to stand up for America, to make sure our troops have the best weapons and the best support and the best medical treatment. $550 billion, from more money for peacekeeping, to money to fight ISIL, to refuel an aircraft carrier. We did our job. You'll hear more about that. We wanted to also fight Ebola, which had the American people near panic this summer. And we said, we have a plan, working with the administration and some of the best scientists and thinkers in our own country, and brave and gallant people like Doctors Without Borders over there. While they make the cover of Time magazine, they're now going to make the federal checkbook here in the United States of America. We have $5.4 billion here to deal with Ebola, a huge sum of money to fight it in Africa. Also, make sure we're ready for any pandemic here. And we also have a Samaritan set of money here to deal, I call it, that's my word, the Samaritan communities that were willing to take the Ebola patients and care for them and treat for them and make sure there was security both for them and the surrounding communities. Millions of dollars were spent, whether it was in Nebraska, whether it was in Georgia at Emory, my own home state, the National Institutes of Health, where a patient flew into a small rural airport. They were ready to accept and provide the security down Route 270 to get them to the beds at NIH. Those communities need to be recognized. We do that. So we have money in there for national security, but we also have money in there for veterans. Oh, we love our veterans. We love to sing songs. We love to wear yellow ribbons. We love to go to concerts. We even love to vote for an authorizing bill. I did it. But without money in the federal checkbook, it is a hollow opportunity. So guess what? Your Appropriations Committee, bipartisan basis, said, we're going to do something that was never done before. We're going to put in not only the money to meet what we said we would do, to reform health care, no more waiting list, no more backlogs, no more them being a victim of the dysfunctional Congress if it's a shutdown or a gridlock. We then did something, we working with the veteran service organizations and the authorizing committee like Senator Sanders, we have advanced appropriations here. So there won't ever be, even if there's a shutdown or a delay, our veterans will be taken care of. And there is more money in there for research. There's more money in there for care. There's an extra $40 million to add to the close to $2 billion to deal with the backlog. These numbers are mind-numbing, but the results are not. So we have that money there. And we also increased the DoD defense money for medical research, for prosthetic devices, for stunning achievements like at my own Johns Hopkins, where they did a limb transplant. Working with the Department of Defense dollars, our gifted and talented surgeon was able to take a veteran and reinstitute limbs, muscle, nerve endings, and also come up with the techniques to prevent rejection that often comes up in transplants. It's stunning. That man will be able to have the use of his arms because of this type of work that we do here. And what we help him, we'll be able to help hundreds, and one day we'll be able to help thousands. That's what we do in appropriations. We take good intentions and make them big dreams as possible. We're really proud of that. The other thing that we're proud of is on a bipartisan basis, we passed the Child Care Development Block Grant. Working with Senator Richard Burr of North Carolina, I led that with the superb help of Senators Alexander and Harkin. So we passed that, but we also wanted to reform our quality standards, regulation without strangulation. We now know that we're going to have fire and safety inspections for facilities, better training for providers, and background checks to make sure our vulnerable populations are protected. But for everything that we ask, we put in $75 million to be able to deal with this. I think that's pretty impressive. Now, the other issue that we looked at was how we looked out for college affordability. And at this program that we passed, we will increase the maximum Pell Grant by $100 for a total maximum of $5,830. $100 more. That means you'll be able to buy a book. You'll be able to pay that lab fee if you want to be a nurse or an inhalation therapist or a surgical tech and so on. But we also reformed the Pell Grants so that any student who simultaneously is working on a GED and a college degree would be eligible for Pell Grants. As part of the listening tours, like Senator Cardin and I had, we found out that there are many people who at a certain point in their life dropped out of school. They made a particular choice that they now are trying to compensate for. So they're working on their GED, making great progress. They've got to show that. But simultaneously, they're eligible for that Pell Grant so they don't lose time. We've been able to do that. So there are other aspects related to college affordability. But we also wanted to focus on safety issues. We have money in here now for the 149 air traffic control facilities in rural communities. Those 149 air traffic controllers, we've got the Maryland 5, like Salisbury, Easton, Frederick, Hagerstown. But I know you have them in Wisconsin. That's taken care of. But we also wanted to look at other issues of safety, like food safety. And thanks to what we've done in this bill, we've funded the FDA so they can meet the new food safety standards that we're concerned about. I'm also particularly happy and proud of what we did for women. I won't go into all the discussions on Obamacare, the usual provocative topic like funding for abortion in very special circumstances. Yes, we'll talk about that tomorrow. But you know what I'm happy about? What we did for victims of violence. This legislation has $430 million here for the Violence Against Women Act. It is the all-time high. Again, taking what the authorizers wanted, but they all do conference calls back at the home state. We actually put money in the federal checkbook. But we paid also special attention to the situation of what happens to rape victims. Very often, and I know you talk with the rape victims in your own state or those who are their advocates, that they feel doubly victimized. They often feel there was the violent attack on them, so repugnant I don't even want to talk about it on the Senate floor, which is horrible enough. But when they turn to the system, they often find that the very forensics that are needed to go after the perpetrator are either stuck in a crime lab somewhere with a backlog, or even worse, sitting in a police locker instead of being tested. So they wait days, weeks, months, and even years. But we've gotten into this. Thanks to our Vice President, Joe Biden, who really was the originator of the violence against women. He asked the Justice Department to go to police departments and say, where is this evidence and why isn't it being processed? Well, they found that there were over 400,000 sexual assault kits sitting in police lockers instead of getting tested. Can you imagine? 400,000! Well, we've got, thanks again to the advocates, you know, the best ideas come from the people. And I think somebody's calling me now about it. 400,000. We can't, what we have here now is we've added a $40 million grant program. Again, a bipartisan effort to go after, to work with local police departments to bring down this, where we already know that they've gotten underway with existing funds. They're finding that some of these predators have been serial rapists. Some of their cases go back 5, 10, and 15 years because of the DNA things that we can do. We can deal with this. I mean, we're going to change this. There are other issues that I can talk about. Droughts, forest fires, all of these kinds of things. I will talk about them more tomorrow. But I just wanted to show the American people, and tonight as we kick off this debate, while we focused on 3 items, and I don't minimize their importance, I don't minimize the value to debate them, I wanted people to know what is in this bill. And when we had to deal with the omnibus, we had to deal with $1 trillion because we were stiff-armed, and also that we couldn't bring up the bills one at a time. So we have to bring all but the Homeland Security up now. And we faced 98 riders, some of which were highly controversial. We did the best we could with them, and I will have more to say about those tomorrow. But while everybody talks about one item or this item, I wanted to talk about some of these items. You know, when we pass, I really hope we pass this omnibus bill, because when we do, our country will be safer because of threats over there. It will be safer because of threats right here. But I believe the biggest threat that we face is gridlock, deadlock, and the way that we paralyze ourselves by making the perfect the enemy of the good. No piece of legislation is perfect. I would be the first to say that in this bill. And by the way, people might say, boy, this is a big bill, Senator Mikulski. It really is. I mean, it is the discretionary funding for our entire federal government. But it's also up on the website. You can go to our individual subcommittees in Defense, Labor, HHS, Interior, Transportation and Housing, and you can read about what we did. I have the summaries here. I'm prepared tonight and read them all night, but I know that we're anxious to bring this evening to a close. But I wanted to open the debate today to talk about how we tried to govern on a bipartisan basis. We reached across the aisle, and we reached across the Capitol dome. The House has done their job. Now I hope we do our job, and that within the next 24 hours that we pass the omnibus spending bill and show that we can govern, that we will not have a government shutdown, we will not have government on autopilot, and we will be able to fund our responsibilities and protect America and really prepare America for both today and the rest of the 21st century. Madam President, I look forward to working with you and my colleagues. I now yield the floor and note the absence of a quorum.